Thank you. Thank you very much. Today we will see two very interesting things. One will be structural directive syntax sugar, and the other will be track by function. And I will combine these two topics together to show you how they actually impact the performance of your application and how you can make your life easier using them in a very clever way. So, hello, I'm Vojtech. I'm here for my second time on NG India. Last time I enjoyed it very much. I hope today I will also enjoy it very much. I am already enjoying it. I also did my slides like on the last minute because I was originally planning to just use WebStorm and live code, but maybe it's not a good idea. So let's have a slides. I'm organizer of a meetup. That meetup is in Czech Republic, in Brno. It's a small city, very small compared to Dili, but we speak there about Angular, and we also enjoy beer, so that's why we have so nice logo. And yeah, let's start. Let's talk about the magic of the track by. Track by is a very interesting small thing, which I think that you all should be using in your application. I would even say that there should never exist an NG4 without a track by. Like almost never, you shouldn't see one. There are even linting rules that you should probably put into your code base that forbid NG4s without track bys. Why? Because track by is a function for NG4 that uniquely identifies list elements, and it will enable you to actually update only the stuff, the items that have been affected by data change. And this is very important because you will optimize the UI changes. It will not be re-rendered just because you edit some data to your data structure, to your store state management. And also, if you are moving the items, suddenly your whole application doesn't feel that slow, doesn't feel like it's re-rendering a lot of stuff, because it will reuse the DOM elements that shouldn't be changed. It will preserve the UI state. You can basically implement things in a way where your cursor position won't change, or your focused element will be the same, or you will be scrolled down even though something very impactful happened. So you can put it in use with animations, because you only want to animate a newly added items. So only the items that had appeared due to you scrolling down or clicking a button should be animated. The old ones should stay the same. They shouldn't all change. So it is all great for these reasons. And every time you have a problem with some of these listed things, it is probably due to you not using the track by function on NG4s. So this is how the DOM will look like if there is nothing used for tracking the item. It will all blink. The blinking means that it's re-rendering the items. They are changing. It's not a good idea. This is infinite scroll. So I'm infinitely scrolling and everything is blinking, everything is re-rendering, and you can hear your computer, the fans are spinning, thing is hot. Not a good idea. This is what should be happening. Only the newly added items are actually re-rendering. Only the last 4 or 5 are being changed. That is the intentional behavior. That is something you should go for. So, what is a track by function? What must it comply with? It must be pure. Do you all know what pure means in this context? Pure is that it doesn't have a side effect. it will produce the same output for the same input. Now, if you take 2 plus 2, it will always be 4. It will never be something else because it will check the database. It will always be 4. So that's pure. It has to be unique. If the same item does something and it needs to be validated, then you need to be able to uniquely identify them, even if the order changed or if something happened. And also no two items should have the same output for the track by function. So you usually choose something meaningful to accomplish these rules, and like unique ID or I don't know, title or ID, or link that could fulfill this. And it also needs to be fast. If you are computing something in that function and it's non-trivial, then it's not a good idea. Once your track by function is actually doing something non-trivial, you are probably introducing a worse behavior than you had before. So make sure it's fast. Don't do many things there. Let's show some code, because code is what is important, that we, or most of us, can understand. Like, you can probably copy paste it. Like this will not be some rocket science. This will all be very easy functions. So you have something like this. This is example from the documentation. Nothing very complicated. You just, the same color-coded stuff means that it is the reference to that function. You specify a track by, give it a reference to that function, and that function will take the item, return ID of that item, and that will be used for validating the track by changes. If you want to do something more clever with it, you can extract the function, because you are reusing it. There is probably the item model or type multiple times in your application. You are iterating over item on a few places. So you can extract it to a helper and then just assign the helper in the component. I'm missing a few lines of code there, but it's, for the simplicity, you can probably tell already how would you simply assign this reference function. So, but what if this is not enough? What if I want to do something even more clever? So then you can create even more detailed helper that will not only focus on the model data type, but it will basically be able to work on any data type that extends the ID of string. So if which usually in your applications, most of your data type have some kind of similar unique identifier. You can just create this helper, and then you can use this helper. So you don't end up in a situation where you are repeating yourself a lot of times writing this function, because I know from personal experience that that's something where developers are really lazy, that they are like, let's not put it there, it's not needed. Just because I need to repeat few lines of code, I will not do it at all. So I am trying to encourage you to write the helper once and then just start importing it. And if you don't even want to do this, then you can, be even more clever and try to do something with syntax sugar. But let me explain the syntax sugar of the directives, because the ng4 is a directive, it's a structural directive, and the syntax sugar plays a huge role there. So let's go through it. There are some rules, and these rules are actually explained in the documentation. What I did was I took this explanation from the documentation and I tried to put some colors there, and I will try to explain it in a way I understood it, and in a way I was able to create some kind of tweaks with the custom syntax sugar. So there is something like this. You can see it all. Amazing. So the directive starts with asterisk. That's the symbol for the structural syntax. Then there is a prefix, and then there is a either let or expression, then separator, and again it would be either let, s, or some kind of expression. Usually the s is exporting something as some local variable. So you basically take the output from the directive, use s, and put it in the local variable. You can use your own name there. It's very simple. You can do similar thing with let syntax. You write let, then name your variable, and then assign something that is exported from the structural directive. This is all in the context model of that directive, the exports. And the third thing there is the key expression, which actually consists of the key, double dot, I don't know the name of it, and expression. So that's when you see that people are, for example, writing the track by function, because you write track by dots and the reference to the track by. And you can also optionally put as some local variable there, again, just to save the output of that expression in some local variable, and it will be available in template. Don't worry, like this is just an introduction, we will see it on the examples. First example, same thing we've already seen. Prefix is ng4, the first is let item, which means that it's the second syntax with the let local export. Then there is of items, which means that it's key expression with key that is of and expression that is items. And then there is a second expression, which is track by, and expression, track by is a key and expression is track by ID. With this knowledge, you can move on and see how it fulfills the original rules of the syntax. Again, as I explained, the pink ones are the key expression, others are also color-coded. With the same color coding, we can move on to how the directive will be let's say generated or used in the ng template, because this is when I talk about syntax sugar, this is what it will produce eventually. The ng4 will become that first line, let item second, and so on, so on. Here you can actually notice, let's try the pointy device, here you can actually notice this, and it's that the prefix is joined with the of, and then items are used. Sorry, I clicked the button. Okay, again. And prefix is joined with track by, and track by ID is passed to it. So that's basically this. The track by is taken from here, put here. The prefix is taken from here, put here. Track by ID, here, here. It's very simple. It will just put these things together. And with knowledge of this, you can actually start creating your own custom syntaxes. Because it's not hard-coded in Angular. It might be hard-coded in some, in WebStorm support. I'm not really sure, because sometimes it actually tells you that there is an error, even if it works. But in Angular, this is how it is dynamically put together. It's actually very clever syntax. And if we move on, we can create something like this. We can just put the track by ID there, because then we know that this syntax will be created in the template. And if we know that this will be created from the track by ID, which is alone here, then we can create implementation for this custom directive. So how would that implementation look like? It would look like this. You would create a very simple directive that actually imports ng4 with the host decorator, I'm not going to explain what it does, but it will cleverly, again, enable you to extend the ng4, which is also present on that template. And you can assign the track-by function that you already wrote, because you called this track-by ID, so you will just put the track-by ID function into the ng4 track-by, and then simply use the directive like this. It's the first step where, if you are having items that have ID and you are sure that it's unique, you can copy-paste this and use it. Your tracking by will be much easier than it is right now. Okay, what else can we do? We can dynamically use the ID as a key, because maybe you are using UID, maybe you want to track by title, maybe you want to track by link, maybe you want to track by username, I don't know. You can do this. Again, notice the syntax down there. Prefix is concatenated with whatever is written there. Expression is put into the assign. So you know that the ID will be passed to the directive, and you can implement that directive. It will look like this. Again, almost the same implementation as before, with one exception, and that is that you will dynamically select item or the key of an item, because you received that item because of this string. You rename the input, save it to the key, use the key to access item. You have a dynamic track by key. Again, you are at the state where you have no excuse to not write your track bys on your ng4s. What else custom we can do there? Because there is, as I already highlighted, many custom things that can be put together. But there was one particular which I was very interested in, just because it seemed so unbelievable. Like I asked multiple people, developers that work with Angular for a long time, and they didn't know. I alone didn't knew that this is the case and that this works. So you can create something like this. It's an ng4 implementation where you do let entry in data object. Notice the in. We are not writing off, we are iterating over the keys or over the entries, as you can probably guess from the naming. So what will happen? It will take this in, concatenate it with the prefix, put the data object in it, so we can split the data object into entries, and then do rest of the stuff that ng4 would normally do. If you are interested in the implementation of this is not a 3-liner like the ones before. This is at least 40 lines. It is still using the ng4. It is not completely from the ground up, but if you at the end go to the slides, I have a QR code there. You can check the implementation. It's in the speaker notes. I just couldn't put it in. It's so huge. So this would be the usage for this directive. You just display key over some list item. I couldn't really come up with something that you could again copy paste into your code base, but I'm sure that you will come up with something that actually makes this interesting. And even if not this particular thing, these are clickable images. You can visit both of the links. One is the documentation of the custom syntax, which, as you may see, is not color coded at all. So you can reuse my color coding to better understand it. or you can go to mastering the Angular structural directives microsyntax, which is a blog post that I read after I tried to actually implement some of the things, and this blog post has beautiful examples in it on very custom syntaxes of the structural directives. So I recommend reading it if you are interested into learning more there. So with this, I say thank you. Enjoy the slides. Hope you liked it.
Great session. Thank you. Thanks, Vojtech. So, guys, are you enjoying this session? Yes? Was that session good? Can we give him a big round of applause for that? Amazing. Thank you.